announcement has been paid for by the new Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest, we'll cover it all here. Commanders Nightly News. I'm, of course, your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. The good guys came up short yesterday. And before we get to the keys to the game and how we fared in that department, as we customarily do on Mondays, I want to talk about the response of this football team yesterday and what the guys were like, the coaching staff was like after that game, and how that shit aligns with where I am mentally. Like we are all synchronized in our thought process in terms of where we feel like we should be and what this team is. All we were ever missing was a quarterback to believe in. And you're seeing it now. Did you see Ron at the post-game presser? Ron beating the table up. Ron was visibly shaken, right? Like, he was pissed. He was so mad that he couldn't even keep still. In mid-answer, he pounds the table because they knew they let one get away. And unlike past years where we would be glad to be competitive, hey, we went to Philadelphia. We put up a fight against a team that was in the Super. In past years, we would have had that Brian Orakpo syndrome. Hey, we went toe-to-toe with the best team in the NFC last year, and they would have been patting themselves on the back. Terry didn't want to hear that shit. Jonathan Allen ain't want to hear that shit. Benjamin St. Juste ain't want to hear that shit. Ron definitely wasn't trying to hear that shit. And our leader, Sam Howell, wasn't trying to hear that shit. None of them wanted any parts of any moral victories. You know why? Because the tenor is different. We expected to go in there and win. We didn't go in there to compete. We went in there to win. And we came up short. So your emotion should be pissed off, frustration. Because they know they let one get away yesterday. They know they let one get away. And that's frustrating. That's a tough, bitter pill to swallow. But again, we don't have time to have self-pity and wallow in that defeat. We don't have time to dwell on that. We got to move on. We got a game on Thursday against the Bears, and they're winless. And when they leave FedEx on Thursday night at roughly, when they leave the field at roughly 11:27, they should still be winless. That's the plan. But I love the response I saw from the team last night in a losing effort that you played really well in. I don't give a shit because we didn't win. Now, I care about how you performed in that loss. As a fan, there were things that I needed to see. And for that, I'm appreciative. But the biggest thing is the dub, and we didn't get it. And a lot of the shit that happened in the game I already knew was going to happen. And those guys expected it, and that's the difference. They expect it now. They're not hoping. Just like I'm not hoping anymore. I used to hope that we would go out there and have a good showing. I used to be very cautious in my optimism, but I always told you guys, hope for the best, expect the worst. That used to be the mentality that I used to roll with. That shit is over with. And you can tell in that locker room, they're not rolling with that either. Now they go out and they expect to beat teams like Philadelphia. Damn right they should. And they should have did it yesterday. But they came up short. And again, credit to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a good football team. Just like I said the week before against Buffalo. It's a damn good football team. I know you're not trying to hear that shit. Because if we want to get to where we want to get to, you got to beat good teams. But I told you, we don't play anybody else on our schedule that looks like the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles don't look like them. The Cowboys don't look like them. The Giants don't look like them. The 49ers don't look like them, okay? So we shouldn't have any more L's that look like the one against Buffalo. We will have some games where we don't play our best and we don't get it done. But it won't look like week number 3. So let's jump into, I know these boys want it now. And I know this staff understands what it's going to take. And Ron, you let those kind of games slip. You don't know how it's going to affect you later on in the season. Like I said, this is a playoff team, but the consistency is what we've got to show in order to be a postseason participant. Anyway, so let's get to the keys to the game, offensively and defensively. The first offensive key was limit the Eagles to 3 sacks or less, and none can result in turnovers. And I also extended that out to hits on the quarterback can't result in any turnovers, like it did last week when Sam was hit and the ball didn't have any velocity on it and Tre'Davious White picked it off. They got half credit for that because the Eagles got 5 sacks in the game. I thought it was 3. It felt like 3, but it was 5. And none of them resulted in a turnover. Although one hit in the red zone early in the game almost resulted in a turnover. It should have been picked off in the end zone, but again, that's why defensive backs play defense and not wide receiver. So we escaped that one. But, we had an opportunity to protect Sam a little bit better, and we didn't. And there were opportunities to get the ball out of his hands, and it didn't happen. And look, it could have been worse if Sam didn't escape 2 or 3 other sacks. The number would have been 7 or 8, to be honest with you. So shout out to Sam for extending some plays, spinning out of a couple of sacks and making some shit happen. Otherwise, it would have been a lot worse. So half credit for that. The next key to the game offensively was we needed to be 40% or better on third downs in the game. Washington came into the game against Philadelphia 31st in the NFL, second to last in third down efficiency. 25% is what we were batting on third downs, which is horrible. We went 8 of 17, which is damn near 50%. So again, Washington, exceeded expectations there. That was the highest third down amount of conversions we've had in the game since last season when we played Philadelphia and had 12 when we beat them in week number 10, I believe it was last year. So we know, again, styles make fights. We know how to play Philadelphia. We know how to match up with them. And now that we got a quarterback, I expect to beat them. So obviously they got a full point there. Red zone efficiency. When we had opportunities, we needed to take advantage of them, and that we did. I mean, it's hard to be much better than 4 out of 5 in the red zone. We scored 4 touchdowns yesterday. 4 out of 5. We had 1 trip in the red zone that didn't result in a touchdown, and that was a field goal. So, hats off to our red zone efficiency. All the more reason why I would have went for 2. They couldn't stop us in the red zone. But such is life, Great job on the red zone efficiency. And then the last key offensively, 1 turnover or less in the game and 4 or less penalties. And the theme there was don't beat yourself. Make Philadelphia beat us. Don't beat yourself. We beat ourselves against Buffalo. Don't have the same thing happen in this game. We didn't turn the ball over once at all. We didn't turn it over at all. So you got half credit for that. But we had 7 penalties. So we reverted back to the penalties that, we were seeing in the first 2 games when we were averaging 8 per game. We only had 2 a week ago, and we went right back up to 7. So that was a little disappointing. Now, the yardage wasn't really there, but a lot of times if you got defensive penalties, those hurt you because they're automatic first down. And we had a face mask that helped aid a Eagles drive for a touchdown. We did some things that can come back to haunt you, and so you can't have those penalties. So have credit there. You go to the defensive side of the football, and the first key to the game was limit the ground game effectiveness, and we did that. I knew they would. There was no doubt in my mind that we were going to limit the ground game for the Eagles. All this talk of DeAndre Swift. And what's amazing is Swift, I think, had 14 carries for like 50 some odd yards, right? 54, 55, 56, something like that. And he needed overtime. They needed overtime just to get to 100 yards as a team. They were talking about Swift individually getting a $150 on us, but bucking some change. Oh, you have the 22nd rated rush defense, and the Buccaneers had the 2nd. high-rated rush defense in the NFL. Why do you think we won't be able to run on you? Cuz we us. That's why. And they them. He needed 5 quarters to get to 50 whatever yards on 14 carries. 5 quarters of football. The Eagles as a team needed 5 quarters of football just to get to 100 and 203, 104 yards of rush offense, whatever the number was. Barely crept over 100. Needed extra frame for that. That's cool. I knew what we were going to do. And I knew we were going to make Jalen Hurts beat us. And unfortunately, he did, which is the next key to the game defensively. Fluster Hurts and forced turnovers. No credit there. We got to him, and there was an opportunity for a pick. He threw a ball up on a 3rd down for grabs, and I would like to see Emmanuel Forbes pick that off. Got to give A.J. Brown some credit. He played defender there and kind of knocked it away, but Forbes had already dropped the ball before he even hit his arm or anything. He had already not caught the ball. So, that was an opportunity for a pick there. And again, when a quarterback throws the ball up into harm's way, I like to make him pay for that. Even if it's, simulating a punt like last week with Josh Allen throwing it up and Kendall Fuller was like, yeah, I'll take that. No worries. That's what I like. Because it's a momentum change. A punt is different than an interception. Even if it's the same result, even if the punt ends up being, 42 yards net and that interception that he throws ends up being, 41 yards net, it's pretty much the same thing. But it's different when you get a pick. There's a different energy, right? I like to see Forbes pick that. And that was a huge play because that punt, that subsequent punt that came after it, Jamison Crowder caught it inside the, 10-yard line, I think. It might have been at the 11, but he caught it at like the 8-yard line or some shit like that, and Fair caught it. So you pick that off. We're out past the 20-yard line. I think we might have been closer to the 30 if he catches that ball. So that's a big drop, but we didn't do enough to affect Jalen Hurts in this game. Bottom line, the defense was not good enough in this game. Eliminate explosives was the next defensive key, and that's been a problem this season. Last year, we cleaned up the explosives issue, and because it was a big issue in 2021. And we cleaned it up for the most part last year. There weren't a ton of explosives over the top. We're back to giving up explosives again. And it's getting, it's getting old fast. Started in week 2 with the Denver Broncos and Marvin Mims Jr. It happened in week 3 with the touchdown, the quick strike to Gabe Davis for the 35-yard touchdown. And then, we saw what happened with A.J. Brown. And look, a lot of that was either double moves or, cover 2. I talked about he hit him in that honey. That was the one for the touchdown where I don't think that wasn't a touchdown one. That was the one where Defoe came over and hit him late after he caught it, but he still held on. So that was a cover 2. One was a double move, and then the other was a double move, right? One was, I think, a fake screen that he bit on, and look, at the end of the day, Forbes got baptized. And that was another thing Ron was pissed off about. He was mad that the Eagles picked on the baby. They picked on the puppy. They should, right? I would have did the same thing. They picked on the puppy. And he got baptized. That's part of the game. They went after the weak link. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And they made sure they went after him time and time again. And hopefully, by the time we see them again, he'll be in a much better space from an experience standpoint, and he'll be ready, And I anticipate that he will. Similar to Sam bouncing back from, the poor game in week 3, I expect, and I said this yesterday, I expect Forbes to continue to get better because of what he went through in week 4 against A.J. Brown and Smitty and that Eagles wide receiving group. But we didn't eliminate the explosives. No points there. That is literally the reason we lost the game. Is the Eagles had too many explosive plays. Even the one right before halftime where it felt like Hurts was just throwing up a prayer to Devontae Smith on a 3rd down. If we get that stop, we get the ball back. We had like 3 times. We going to get points, bro. They hadn't stopped us for real the entire game. Up until that point, we were moving the football with ease. Like, I would have loved to have gotten the ball in a 2-minute situation. We've been really good in 2-minute all season long. Sans for the mistakes that we've made, the Cardinals game was a fumble and a scoop and score. But even after that, we came back and still got a field goal, right? Got points before half against Denver. So I would have loved to have seen us get the rock in that situation. But Devontae Smith made a play, man. What can I say? That's a hell of a play by a dude that's a playmaker. So explosives killed us in this game. Last but not least, third down defense and red zone defense was going to be key and vital. Eagles only had 2 trips in the red zone. Why? Because they had explosive plays scored from outside of the red zone. But they got in there twice and we held them to a field goal once. You could argue that was some questionable play calling on their part by running it on like 3rd and 8. Like they would like we the Buccaneers and you gonna run for 9 or 12 yards on 3rd and 8. Yeah, right. Do you know who we are? And we forced a fumble, but we weren't aware enough to go recover it, right? We got a full point there. The Eagles were 4 of 12 on 3rd downs. Now they were 2 of 2 on 4th down, so were we. But they didn't convert on 3rd downs with regularity in this game. And they were 1 of 2 in the red zone. So I told you, anytime you hold a team to 50% or less in the red zone, that's usually going to get you a win. No matter how many trips they make, unless you're not making any trips to the red zone. If a team gets to the red zone 6 times and they go 3 of 6, first of all, they're moving the ball way too much on you. Anything over 4 trips to the red zone for an opponent, that means they're doing work to your defense. They're doing work to your defense. And the only way to make you feel better about the work that's being done is if you get it done in the red zone. Well, they only made 2 trips to the red zone. Again, they scored 2 touchdowns outside of the red zone because they were able to get those explosives that I talked about, limiting them to. But we did our part defensively in that regard. 3rd downs and limit them in the red zone, and we did that. Efficiency in the red zone from a defensive standpoint was good. Again, all the more reason why you should have come away with a dub here. Got to find a way to win. But and again, the total here speaks to having an opportunity to win. 5 out of 8, right? Get 3 points from the offensive side, 2 points from the defensive side. That's a total of 5 out of 8. I'd take my chances with 5 out of 8 as a winner. Anything over 6 is all but guaranteed to win unless you self-destruct somehow. But 5 is right in that neighborhood. 5, 5.5 is right in that neighborhood where I expect a dub off of that. Especially on the road against a team like Philadelphia. It's disappointing that you didn't come out with the victory. But such is life. We move on, right? Again, we don't have time to cry over spilled milk. We got a game in 3 days. One that we have to win. So let's move on to in other news. Ron, obviously, day after presser, talked about, some of the things he talked about yesterday and kind of reiterated some of those things. We'll talk about what he had to say. But before we do that, let's take a look at the snap counts from Week 4's contest versus Philadelphia. And there's some things that stick out to me that we will discuss here. So 78 offensive snaps, as you can see, for the second week in a row. I am proud to announce, nope, I lied. Let's see who didn't make it from a offensive line standpoint. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 offensive linemen. That means left tackle, right guard. Sadiq Charles didn't make the whole game. Where is he on this list? I'm going to assume Sadiq Charles played all because I don't see him here. So for the second week in a row, all 5 of our linemen played all 100% of the snaps. That's a good thing. Sam Howell obviously is joining that group. He's on the field for every single snap as well. So then you get into your skill guys and the rest of the offense. Terry McLaurin led the rest of the team with 63 snaps for 81%. Logan Thomas, as you can see, heavy workload for his first game back, 62 snaps, 79%, which you see with him having 62 snaps, that means a guy that we would like to see get involved more doesn't play, and I have a problem with that, but we'll get there in a second. Jahan Dotson, 56 snaps, 72%. Curtis Samuel, 54 snaps for 69%. Brian Robinson Jr., much better this week. He was grossly undersnapped a week ago. Yeah, I just made that up. And remember, Antonio Gibson, I think, had him by like 15 to 17 snaps a week ago. It's ridiculous. To me, Gibson should never have more offensive snaps than Brian Robinson Jr. 43 offensive snaps for 55%. Gibson, 30 offensive snaps for 38%. That's how it should be, somewhere in that neighborhood. John Bates, 27 offensive snaps, 35%. De'Ami Brown, 25. That's an uptick for him. He didn't play a lot last week for 32% of the snaps. Byron Pringle, that's his biggest number of the season. 18 snaps, 23%. Derek Gore, 6 plays, along with Cole Turner, both of them 8%. Now, Cole Turner, that's the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, last week was his season high because of the injury to Logan. But even with Logan back, I still thought there should have been more opportunities for Cole Turner. But again, I'm not going to cry over, if we're talking about Cole Turner and his lack of participation, if that's our biggest concern, we're in a really good spot. Let's go ahead and get to the defensive side. 71 total defensive snaps. Remember last week we had like 53 snaps or something like that offensively, which I told you that if you got 53 snaps in a game, something usually means something has gone horribly wrong. Either somebody had the ball way too long, whether it's you or the opponent, or you didn't convert third downs, or you turned it over, which was a combination of both last week. Turnovers, and we were 1 of 9 on third downs. So 78 is right around, and again, we went to overtime too, but we didn't have it a ton in overtime. So Cody Barton, 71 defensive snaps, played for the 4th consecutive week. Cody Barton plays every single defensive snap. Same with Derek Forrest, Benjamin St. Juste, Cam Curl, and Kendall Fuller. Those guys always play the entire game. So those are your core 5 on defense right now in terms of percentage of snaps. Deron Payne played 67 snaps. That's a problem. He shouldn't be playing that many snaps, which speaks to the lack of depth inside, or at least the depth that you trust. They need Fadarian Mathis to get back, and they need him to be the 2nd-round pick they drafted him to be. Because Deron shouldn't be playing. Go around the league. Go look at Chris Jones for Kansas City. Go look at Aaron Donald for the Rams. Go look around the league at the elite defensive tackles. Go look at Quinnen Williams for the Jets. I guarantee you if there's 71 snaps, they're not playing 67 of them. He can't be at his best. You want to know? Y'all want to criticize the defensive line? It's hard to be at your best when you dog tired and you can't come off the field. You want Deron to be at his best? Have Deron's stamina bar at 95 instead of at 55. When you playing against the best offensive line in football, I need his stamina to be in the green, not in the orange, yellow, or red, right? If it's yellow, I can deal with yellow. Green and yellow, right? This man was probably in this game on orange and red the whole second half. But you want him to get to the quarterback, though. But you want him to make tackles for losses. And when he's not out there, we know he ain't out there because we like, hey, where Deron at? Right? And it shouldn't be that way. I'm watching the Jets with this guy named Bryce Huff coming off the bench as their situational third down pass rusher. You know what of a luxury it is to be able to say, hey, I don't have to keep my starters in on third down. I got a guy. I'm not saying I want them off the field on third downs, but it's a luxury when you feel really confident about the dude you bringing in the game off the bench. And that's how I feel about FA. And that's how, and I don't know, we don't know about Fedarian Mathis. He hasn't played in 2 years. But I'd like to find out here shortly. I have no issues with John Ridgway. But as you can see, only 13 snaps for him in this game. We'll get to that in a second. So, I mean, I've said everything I need to say there. You want Duran to play at a high level, he needs more rest than this. The man played 94% of the snaps. Now, against a lesser offensive line, he'll still dominate. But against the Eagles, I need him to not play 94% of the snaps if you want him to play at his best. Emmanuel Forbes played 65 snaps. That's his high of his career for 92%, which, again, that's predicated on the Eagles. They were constantly putting 3 or 4 receivers on the field, which forced him onto the field. Unlike Buffalo a week ago, who consistently were in 12 personnel, allowing for Forbes to stay on the sidelines for much of the game. Chase Young, 63 snaps, 89%. Montez Sweat, 58 snaps for 82%. Jamin Davis, 57 snaps for 80%. John Allen, 57 for 80. That's really where it should be, right? 57 snaps for Daron Payne as well. Like 80% of the snaps is fine. 75, somewhere in that 70, 75, 80% of the snaps. It's fine. Still a little high, but that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. 94% of the snaps for my 315-pound defensive tackle, that's ridiculous. Percival Butler, 19 snaps. So you see who they trust. It's a massive drop-off after John Allen's 57 snaps. Percival Butler, 19 for 27%. James Smith-Williams, 16 snaps for 23%. He pissed me off yesterday because there was one play where he ran in on a bootleg and had Jalen Hurts for about a 5-yard, probably more like a 7-yard sack, and he misses him, right? Then the next time he gets free, right, they don't even block him on this play. He runs in all hesitant because he got cooked the last time and lets Hurts throw up a deep ball. Now, it ended up being incomplete. As a matter of fact, that was the intentional grounding at the end of the game that almost pushed him out of field goal range. But I'm like, bro, go get him. He was scared. John Ridgway, 13 snaps for 18%. Abdullah Anderson, 6 for 8%. And Casey Toohill, 5 for 7%. So that tells you they don't really have a lot of confidence in these backup defensive linemen. The guys on the D-line aren't. And again, it also speaks to, hey, like I was pissed off when James Smith-Williams was in for that one snap to start a drive after the offense just put together a 9-play, 75-yard drive in which it culminated in a touchdown. Like, why is James Smith-Williams in for the first snap? Because that was the one where Hurts got away on that bootleg. Why is JS Dub in the game anyway? It's one thing if the offense went 3 and out. Okay, yeah, I get it. The offense just put together a 5-6 minute drive. Get my damn defensive ends back in there. Get my starters in there. He not getting away from Sweat like that. He not getting away from Chase like that. Anyway, it speaks to the lack of confidence. If you really truly love this rotation, then you wouldn't mind giving Duran and John and Chase and Payne or Sweat breaks. But because you don't really believe in these dudes, that's why they playing so little. Anyway, I digress. So Ron talked about the growth and maturation of this team. That's the Ron I like. The one that I saw at the podium after the game that was pissed off, that could barely control himself. That's the Ron I like. That's the competitive Ron, The easygoing, arms folded on the sideline, stoic sort of Ron. He's all right. That ain't my cup of tea, though. I like the fiery Ron that was pissed off that we didn't win a game that we fully expected to win. And he knows that you can't waste opportunities like this with a young quarterback who comes out there and scorches that Eagles defense, that puts together a drive like that at the end. Like, how many quarterbacks in the league is doing that, what he just did on that final drive? No timeouts, gotta have it, and just, escaping the pocket on 4th down and finding the, Every single play that had to be made, that was adult football you saw from Sam. You know what it is. It's NHO. But you can't waste that kind of effort. That's part of the reason Ron was so pissed off. And they went after a baby. They went after a puppy. Repeatedly. It is what it is. So he talked about Forbes having to be better and some of the things he has to work on, which he had already mentioned last week, right? He also talked about the response from the team. No, he knew what they were going to do. He's like, I knew they were going to come out. They had a great week of practice, and I just knew they were going to come out and play well, you know. But we need to find a way to win. You know, this, again, we're not here for any moral victories. We at the point now where those have to turn into wins. And yeah, he talked about that. He talked about the quick turnaround. Look, don't really have time to dwell on this. We got a hungry, winless Bears team coming in here with a talented quarterback who played his best game of the season last week against Denver in a game that they should have won. So they're going to come in here confident, thinking, hey, man, we didn't get it done last week, but here's a golden opportunity to get it done now. And we got to shut that shit down early and often. And if you don't, and you let Justin Fields gain some confidence, you let him run around a little bit, we have our hands full. You want this shit to be over early, get to his ass, force him into a mistake or two. I mean, that's one of the plays that turned the tide in the game against the Broncos. He had a bad fumble on a bootleg where he turned around and there was a defender right in his face and he panicked and the ball came out his hand and they scooped that bitch up and ran for a touchdown. And that's when he was like, uh-oh, y'all about to blow this shit, huh? And they damn sure did. So we got to pressure him. We got to put him in uncomfortable situations. I'm not telling you to blitz him, because if you don't get there and he hits the seam, you got bigger problems on your hands. I'm not telling you to blitz. I would do just like we did against the Eagles and play coverage and keep a spy. Rush 4, keep a spy. He ain't too complex as a quarterback in terms of what he's seeing right now. He's not Jalen Hurts. Make him make throws. Make him make plays. And if he dares try to lead a pocket, you got a spy waiting on his ass. That's how I would operate with Justin Fields. But we got plenty of time to talk about that. But Ron just pretty much said, hey, ain't no taking these boys lightly. These boys are hungry. You know, and this is a part of our growth and maturation is how do you handle a desperate Bears team coming in here? You got to match their level of desperation. We need this game just as bad as they do. They shit is already over. They 0-4. They shit is over. I don't know who's leading their division. Let me think. Detroit at 3-1. They're not catching them. They season already over at 0-4. But they playing for pride, and they you know, look, ain't nobody trying to go to work every single day and keep losing. That shit gets old quick. So they trying to get a dub. We got to match their level of desperation because we 2-2. We can't afford to lose 3 in a row. We can't afford to drop to under 500, losing to a team that was winless previously at home. Nah, we need this game just as bad as they do, if not worse. Because we actually trying to make some shit of our season. They not. So we got to match that level of desperation that they come out with. We got to be just as hungry. We got to be hungrier than they ass. And we got to show it on the field. And as pissed off as Jonathan Allen and, you know, as disappointed as Terry was, as pissed off as Sam Howell was, and as pissed off as Ron was, and I know EB was hot, I expect them to put all that energy into whooping the Bears' ass. But again, we'll see. So, you know, Ron talked about a lot of stuff, but most of it was, you know, and one thing I found interesting, it's probably the most interesting thing, is Sam Fortier asked Ron, if you had a timeout, would you have taken it, and would that have changed your, you know, the way you viewed that final decision to go for 2? And Ron said, no, I don't think it would have made a difference. So don't tell me they were gassed as the reason. Just tell me we liked what we were doing on offense, and we felt like if we could win the toss and get the ball, we could go down and score. Just say that. You don't got to lie to me, bro. Don't make the excuse of they were gassed. And I'm not telling you that the players weren't gassed. They were gassed, but don't use that as an excuse, because if you had a timeout and you had an opportunity to use it to give them the ability to catch their breath and go for two in the win, then that would have made a lot more sense if that's your philosophy, which it clearly isn't, right? And sometimes I don't think you should have a hardline stance on what you do in certain situations. You got to be able to play it by feel, right? And if you just say, look, man, I'm a gut feel type of guy. Things have to pass the eyeball test. And for me, I just felt like with the way we were playing, going to overtime gave us the best shot to win. I didn't like us in a one play situation for as hard as we worked and as much as we did to put ourselves in that situation. I felt like we deserved another quarter to prove that we were the better team. I would have been fine with that. Don't tell me they were gassed and then when posed with an opportunity to give them the breather that they need to get it done, you're like, nah, it wouldn't have changed my mind. Just say you didn't want to go for two. And again, I don't disagree with him about go. I told you, I do disagree, but there's no right or wrong answer here. The crowd that is screaming he should have gone for two. If we go for two and don't get it, then you would have been screaming. You'd have been the same crowd that have been screaming he should have kicked the extra point, because that's the shit y'all did in 2020, right? He should have kicked the extra point. And I was saying I didn't have a problem with him going for two. I'm mad we lost the game, but I support him going for two. I wanted him to go for two again. You know, I err on the side of aggressiveness. That's my demeanor. Especially when I look at the other team and say, y'all ain't got shit for us. We went 4 or 5 in the red zone for a reason. You ain't got shit for me. But again, that's nor here nor there. He made the decision that he thought was right. And if Terry catches the ball, we going for points. Whether it's a touchdown and a game winner or a field goal, I don't know. But we were going for points on that ass. They got lucky, literally inches lucky. But that's football. It's a game of inches. We say it all the time. So I just wish they would have called it a catch on the field. And Ron literally said the same thing. Like, I wish they would have just called it a catch on the field, because had they done that, they would not have had enough evidence. And I don't know how the official all the way up there could be so definitive that it was incomplete. He could not have seen from that far back that Terry stepped out of bounds, which I still question if he did or not. But that's nor here nor there, right? That didn't lose us the game. The defense could have gotten a stop after that, and they didn't, right? So that play wasn't fourth down and you had to have it, and the Eagles already kicked a field goal, and not, catching that pass or not having that ruled in bounds ended the game. No, we punted the football. Our punter didn't have a good kick, and then the defense still had a chance to get a stop, and they couldn't get a stop. They had a couple of third downs, a second and long, and they failed to get the job done. So all of those things culminated in the walk-off field goal that ended the game 34-31 in overtime. So, yeah, that sucked. And he did address Tress. He's like, look, man, he's been outstanding for us, and I'm not losing any confidence in him. No, it wasn't his best game. No, it wasn't his best kick, but I still got the utmost confidence in Tress, as do I. I was mad yesterday, talking about he's getting old and all that shit. That doesn't matter for a punter. Kickers can play for 25 years if they want to. As long as Tress continues to be himself, he'll have a job here, because he's one of the best still in the league. It just sucked that in the biggest moment of the game, he gave us his worst kick. And my tolerance for that stuff is low. But, Tress has built up enough, sweat equity where he gets a pass. This time, I'm not giving out many more of those, because I'm too competitive for that. And if the defense, or the offense or whomever is doing their job, I need special teams to come, and join the party. You can't be the outlier that doesn't get it done. But, the defense didn't get it done yesterday, and special teams, I didn't feel like got it done either. But that's been a theme of the season, right? Special teams has not been great this year, period. So a lot of shit to clean up, and only 3 days to do it, with a Bears team coming to town that's looking at us and licking their chops, thinking they can get their first win of the season. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. Again, bitter pill to swallow. You're 2-2. You had an opportunity to go to the link, a place where we've had success. We had won 2 out of the last 3 years, had a chance to make it 3 out of the last 4 years. We scored 30 points there last year. We scored over 30 again this year. We had one game last season where we scored 30 points on offense. Like, we scored 32 against the Eagles, but remember the Casey Toohill scoop and score was a defensive touchdown. So that didn't really count as the offense providing, the team with 30-plus points in a game. We only had one game last season where we scored 30 or more points as an offense. And we've already got 2 this year. 2 in 3 weeks. So we already know the difference between EB as a play caller, but more importantly, Sam Howell as your quarterback. You have a chance to be dynamic when you got a real guy under center and a play caller that knows what the hell he's doing. So now it's just about putting it together. And again, the consistency is going to be the key. Can't just do it this week and then next week you fall off the damn face of the earth and you're begging the defense to get enough stops to piece together a victory. I'm not telling you that the offense is going to have a fastball every week, because they're not, but I still need them to be a big part of this team's success week in and week out. I need this defense to play better. I get it. The Eagles are a really dynamic offense. They have a quarterback that finished second in the MVP voting a season ago. They got weapons, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. They added one in DeAndre Swift, and they got weapons everywhere. Dallas Goedert was nice and quiet yesterday. Like, that's the best game we've ever had against him. Some of that was the fact that AJ was eating too, right? I mean, they didn't have to go to Dallas as much. But we got to be better defensively, period. And hopefully that starts with Thursday night against the Bears. But we got plenty of time to talk about that. So it's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. Y'all know what it is. Post up. Take command. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Giants play tonight. They'll cap off week number 4. Hopefully they lose and drop to 1-3 on the season. And I'm looking to crush those boys. If they lose tonight, their season is done, because they got the Dolphins and the Bills in the next 2 weeks respectively, and then they got us after that. I'm looking to end they shit. After the Dolphins put a hurting on them and then the Bills smoke them on prime time television, their spirits will be broken at 1-5 at that point. And I'm looking to deliver the knockout blow. Through the ropes, too. I don't want to just knock them down and have them be like Mike Tyson looking for the mouthpiece on the canvas. Nah, I'm trying to knock their ass through the ropes. So, again, we'll get there. Let's just see what they do tonight, because they could save their season and win tonight. And I already told Bad Dog, if you don't score 24-plus tonight, then your offense is a charity case, because the Seahawks defense is trash. Yeah, they get Jamal Adams back tonight. I don't give a damn. Man ain't played football in what seems like an eternity. How much of an impact can he have? We'll see what happens. Anyway, you know where to find me when that game meets its conclusion. See you guys a little bit later on. God bless. Good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20. He's gone.